everyone. In today's video, I'm going to share something that's been on my mind recently, and I think that by opening up, I can help you understand a few truths about running an online business that don't really get talked enough about. Recently, I spent 3 weeks back home in Ontario, Canada. I drove around the province, staying with childhood friends, and visiting countless tiny towns. The last time I spent this much time in tiny towns, I was a teenager who quite honestly couldn't wait to leave. I was so desperate to leave that when I caught up with previous high school classmates who I hadn't seen in over 10 years, that was actually what they remembered about me. I had a difficult childhood, and as crazy as it sounds, one of my biggest fears was actually never breaking free. I had no stable home environment. I left my family's home at 16. The odds were quite honestly stacked against me, and I could see it. I was aware of it at that age, but I refused to succumb to it. Coming back to Scotland after my trip home made me reflect on how far I've come, but also how easy it would have been to stay in my old comfort zone. When I was 16, I had a singular goal, which was leave. All I wanted to do was leave. I was so driven by that desire that I put in extra hours at school. I worked during my spare periods, which wasn't common in my school, and I stayed focused on all of my schoolwork, even doing extra credit work, because I knew it was my ticket to leaving the town, and I knew that I had to leave. And it worked. I was accepted into one of Canada's top universities, a singular moment that completely changed the trajectory of my entire life. Now that I look back on that, I realize how that level of focus actually shaped my entire entrepreneurial journey. Quite literally, it shaped my life. Back then, I didn't know what my future held, but I knew that I couldn't stay in that environment, that I had to go. In the same way, if you want to succeed in online business, you need a reason to leave the comfort of where you are now, or of whatever's holding you back. Whether it's a steady paycheck, a predictable schedule, or just the fear of the unknown, your why has to be strong enough to push you out of that comfort zone. You really need a why that's bigger than yourself. When I started my online business, I didn't leave my corporate career just for the sake of leaving. I left because I wanted freedom. I wanted more control over my time and ultimately my life. That's what drove me when things got tough. If you're building an online business, take a step back and ask yourself, why are you doing this? What's your deeper motivation? It's not just about making money or gaining followers. It has to be something that fuels you on the days when it feels like nothing is going right. Because believe me, there will be those days. So I want you to reflect on your why and remind yourself of it every single day. Make sure that you write it down somewhere where you can see it, because it's going to be your guide when the road gets hard. Comfort versus growth, the trap of settling in business. While I was back home, I experienced a sense of comfort I actually hadn't felt in years. It was almost surreal. Even the things that used to frustrate me, like how everyone knew everyone's business, suddenly felt familiar and almost charming. I could see how easy it would have been to stay, to fall into the rhythm of small town life with its familiar routines and deep connections. But I realized something during those 3 weeks. Comfort doesn't lead to growth. If I had stayed back then, I would have never experienced the incredible things I have in life. I wouldn't be coming to you from Italy right now on a trip. That is for certain. The same is true in business. It's easy to get comfortable. When you hit a certain revenue goal or you find a system that just works for you and it feels like you can just coast for a little while, that can be really comfortable. But if you're not pushing yourself, if you're not constantly looking for ways to grow, then you're going to ultimately stagnate. So this is another point I want to make, and that's that growth happens outside of comfort zones. When I first started our business, there was a temptation to do what was familiar and safe. But real growth came when we stepped into discomfort, when we started investing really aggressively in ads, when we launched new products, and even when we pivoted into new markets. Look at your business right now. Where are you playing it safe? Maybe you're hesitant to invest in Facebook ads because you feel it's a little too risky. Or maybe you're afraid to scale because you just don't feel ready. Maybe you're holding yourself back on actually launching because you just don't feel ready. The reality is growth is uncomfortable, and you need to get used to that discomfort. Here's something I tell myself when I'm starting to feel a little too comfortable, and that's comfort is the enemy of progress. Remind yourself of that next time you're tempted to take the easy road in your business. Another thing that hit me when I was back home was how much I missed being part of a community. Growing up, I didn't always feel like I quite fit in, but there was still a sense of belonging because people knew me. I had my group of friends. There was a shared understanding of our experiences. But since starting my business and moving abroad, I've had to navigate that sense of loneliness. Don't get me wrong, I love the freedom that comes from entrepreneurship, but it can also be a little bit isolating. You're no longer part of a team working towards a shared goal like in a 9-to-5. You don't have that sense of camaraderie. You're now the one leading the charge, and sometimes that can feel quite lonely. So the third point that I want to make is that you don't have to do it alone. I really encourage you to build a community. One of the biggest mistakes I see online business owners make is thinking that they have to go it alone. Yes, entrepreneurship can be lonely, but it really doesn't have to be. You need to build a community around you, whether that's a mastermind group, an online network, a Facebook community, or even just a few close mentors. You can also choose people that, accountability buddies you can bounce ideas off of if you're on the same journey. When Niall and I have faced significant challenges in our business, it has been our community that helped us navigate them and get back on track. Without their support, I honestly don't know where we would be today. The truth is, no matter how successful you are, you still need people around you who understand what you're going through and can offer support when you need it. So I want you to ask yourself, who is in your corner? Who can you reach out to for advice or support when things are getting tough? And if you don't have those people, it's time to start building those connections. I really encourage you to maybe consider joining memberships that might include people who are on a similar trajectory as you, join Facebook communities, really just make connections. You could go to networking events, things like that. Try and make connections in your industry. Another thing I want to point out is that freedom really isn't free. There is an importance of systems and intentionality. So let's actually start talking about that now. For most of us, it's the reason we started our online business, freedom, in the first place. I wanted the freedom personally to travel, to work from anywhere, to spend more time doing my hobbies, to spend more time with my family, with my animals, and to ultimately have the financial security to do all of that without worry. But here's something I've learned. Freedom doesn't just happen. You don't just wake up one day and suddenly you have all the time and the money in the world. Freedom requires systems, intentionality, and a lot of upfront work. Nobody is getting rich overnight here, despite what they might make you think on social media. When I first started working for myself, I thought the freedom would kind of come naturally. But without the right systems in place, I quickly realized I was working more hours than ever before. I was chained to my laptop even when I was supposed to be, in theory, out on vacation, out exploring the world. It wasn't until I got serious about building systems and automating parts of my business that I truly started to experience the freedom I had dreamed of. And that's because freedom is earned. It's not given. In business, freedom comes from having the right systems in place. Systems that allow your business to run without you being there every second, without you having to intervene in every single little thing. That might mean incorporating new offer types, automating your customer acquisition process, or outsourcing specific areas to team members or contractors. So I want to ask you, what systems do you have in place right now? If you're finding yourself overwhelmed and overworked, it's time to take a step back and figure out what needs to change. True freedom isn't just about having time off. It's about having a business that works for you, even when you're not directly sitting in front of your laptop. There is a push and pull of belonging and escaping that we might experience in entrepreneurship, and now I want to dive into finding a balance with that. So one of the hardest things about entrepreneurship and life in general is the constant push and pull between wanting to belong and wanting to escape. When I was back home, I felt a deep sense of belonging that I hadn't felt in years. But at the same time, I knew I had outgrown that life. I had worked too hard to escape it to ever fully return, and I had changed so much from the person that I was when I left. In business, I think we all experience that same conflict. Part of us craves the safety and security of a 9-to-5 job where everything is predictable and laid out for us. But the other part of us is driven by that need for freedom, for creativity, for the chance to build something that's truly ours. And so that's another point I want to make, and that's that it's actually okay to miss the comfort of a 9-to-5, but don't let it hold you back. It's natural to miss the structure and the predictability of a traditional job. But if you let that nostalgia hold you back, you'll never experience the full potential of what you can create as an entrepreneur. Yes, entrepreneurship is hard. Yes, it's unpredictable, but it's also what makes it so rewarding. So the next time you feel torn between wanting comfort and pushing forward in your business, I want you to remind yourself of why you started. Go back to that why. Remind yourself of the freedom you're building and the lives that you're ultimately impacting. In many ways, my entrepreneurial journey mirrors my personal one. It's been uncomfortable, it's been lonely, and there have been minutes where I've questioned whether it's all worth it. But at the end of the day, I know that the freedom and growth I've experienced are really worth the struggle. It really is all worth it. Without taking the leaps I took before, I wouldn't be here recording this video from Italy in a hotel room. My life would have looked entirely different. So if you're feeling torn between comfort and growth, between belonging and escaping, between the safety of a 9-to-5 and the freedom of entrepreneurship, I really hope this video helps you see that it's actually okay to feel that way. It's completely normal. But don't let it stop you from pushing forwards. Don't let it stop you from going for it. Thank you for joining me on this slightly personal video, but I really hope it resonates with you and it helps you push through the moments when you feel torn. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and remember to like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.